Unmute it.
Oh.
Yeah, so pull this up.
Was I snoring for a while?
No, you just now started snoring.
Damn it. No.
You've been asleep for a while. You just now started
Okay,
snoring.
oh, that's.
My name is Melissa Elizabeth Lucio. I'm 48 years old. I have 14 children. I've been on death row 11 years.
There were bruises from head to toe. There were bruises on the face, in the hair, on the chest. This was the worst case of child abuse I had ever seen.
Oh my gosh. She fell all the way down. From the first step up there all the way down there. Imagine the baby falls. The baby.
And did you see her fall, or did somebody tell you that that's what had happened?
The interview was never presented to the court. And none of those kids ever said that their mom was beating up on Mariah.
It was during election time. Armando Villalobos was running again for DA.
I'm the first Hispanic woman on death row. So this was a huge case for him.
Bribery was endemic. He'd be compensated for favorable treatment in criminal cases.
That was a plan. To put her away. My mother. Poor, perfect target to help him win his election. She's no criminal. They're the criminals. They're the criminals. And you guys can go, and it's on Hulu. You have to have a subscription through them. But I also found this on her. And I wanted to share. She brutally murdered her child and was trying to get off death row.
I'm a first-time home buyer, and I'm using Realtor.com.
All you gotta do is go to Realtor.
Sorry for the ads, God. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the ads. It's almost over.
I'm so excited, and we're waiting. We're waiting for Melissa to come home.
With just 2 days before the scheduled execution of Melissa Lucio, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals issued a stay that might give her a chance to prove that she did not kill her 2-year-old daughter, Mariah Alvarez, in 2007. In a statement, Lucio said in part, "I am grateful the court has given me the chance to live and prove my innocence. Mariah is in my heart today and always."
It's a really tough time for all of us right now.
Bobby Alvarez and his siblings have been visiting their mother in a Central Texas prison, where she has been on death row.
She fell all the way down. From the first step up there all the way down there.
Her family says that day they were in the middle of moving. When Lucio was packing in their second-floor unit, Mariah, who was unsteady on her feet due to a mild physical disability, fell down the stairs. She didn't show signs of severe injury, but became lethargic, and 2 days later, unresponsive.
We immediately called the ambulance, and from there, got taken away. It was just overnight.
Court documents show Texas Rangers interrogated Lucio for hours about extensive bruising and suspected child abuse. The clip of this interview was provided by Lucio's lawyers.
How are you not cold-blooded? How are you going to change our minds and prove to us that you're not a cold-blooded kid?
I don't know how to change the minds.
Well, you can start with telling us the truth. start by telling us the truth.
It wasn't going to stop until she told the interrogators what they wanted to hear.
Lucio's lawyers say after hours of questioning the night her daughter died, Lucio was pressured into agreeing that she was responsible for her daughter's injuries, but never said she killed her child. Her defense team says the new evidence includes testimony the jury never heard from witnesses saying Lucio did not abuse her child. Lucio's lawyers also say the jury was not shown how Mariah's bruising could have been explained by a blood coagulation disorder caused by head trauma sustained in the fall. Now a lower court must review some of these claims, including that she is actually innocent. 5 jurors have said with new evidence, they feel Lucio should have a new trial.
Mariah's death was a tragedy, not a murder. And the reason that we're seeing the jurors come forward, the reason that we're seeing such an outpouring of bipartisan support is because people recognize that Melissa Lucio is innocent.
Now the trial court will have a hearing to review evidence on certain defense claims, and based on that, she could get a new trial. All of that could take months, and she will remain behind bars in the meantime.
She admitted to biting her daughter. Okay, so it says State Representative Jeff Leach, R. Plaintiff, questioned Cameron County District Attorney Luis Sanchez at the interim study of the Committee of the Criminal Justice Reform hearing about the death row inmate Melissa Lucero at the Capitol of Austin, Texas on Tuesday, April 12, 2022. A bipartisan majority of the Texas House of Representatives is calling for clemency for Lucino, who was convicted of capital murder in 2008 after the death of her daughter. And that's from the Associated Press. It says John Lucino with his wife Michelle Lucino speaks to reporters before the hearing the day of the interim study of the Committee of the Criminal Justice Reform about her mother, death row inmate Melissa Lucero, at the Capitol in Austin, Texas on Tuesday, April 12, 2022. A bipartisan majority of the Texas House of Representatives is calling for clemency for Melissa Lucero, who was convicted of capital murder in 2008 after the death of her daughter. And this was a 2-year-old. There's a picture of her. That's like before court. It's her with the state representative. Yeah, I totally agree. All lives are precious, but who's going to be held accountable for this 2-year-old that had bruises and previous signs of abuse and bite marks, and her mother admitted to biting her? Is this the? I think that was the same one. Sorry guys, I lost my video I wanted to pull up here. This is why we have the handy dandy post-it notes. Okay, so this is what I wanted to pull up. This is the actual court document, and I'll include this link in the description or a comment on the live. But this is the actual court documents from her case. And I'm using a different browser than what I usually read with. So, let's see. That's kind of weird that it doesn't have where it reads it. Weird. Anyway, it's the case, the docket number, United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit Court. So this goes on to say a Texas jury convicted Melissa Lucero of capital murder for beating to death her 2-year-old daughter. The state confirms and affirmed her conviction of the sentence of a direct appeal and denied her petition for post-conviction relief. Now she seeks federal habeas relief. Lucigo argues that the state trial and the court denied her constitutional right to present a complete defense by excluding 2 expert witnesses and testifying at the guilt phase of her trial. The federal district court held that she cannot surmount of the Anti-Terrorism Effect of the Death Penalty Act of 1996. 10 members of the balance court agree with that judgment. We affirm. We begin with the tragic facts of this case, then turn to Lucido's proceedings in the state and federal court. This case turns an ever-evolving argument that Lucido offered a trial, direct appeal in state habeas, and has federal habeas. So we recount the prejudicial history in detail. On the night of February 17, 2007, paramedics responded to a call at the home shared by Lucino and her husband, Robert Alvarez. The call concerned the couple's young daughter, Maria. When the EMTs arrived, they found Maria on the living room floor. No one was near her. Her body was covered with bruises in various stages of healing. Her arm had been broken for several weeks. She had bite marks on her back, and some of her hair had been pulled out. She was not breathing, plus she had no pulse. The EMTs tried to resuscitate Maria and rushed her over to the hospital, and in the emergency room, the doctors also tried to revive Maria. Those efforts were unsuccessful. Maria was pronounced dead. She was 2 years old. On the night of Maria's death, Lucino told the EMTs and the police that Maria fell down the stairs. Later that night, during a videotaped interview with investigators, Lucino explained that she had caused the bruises on Maria's body by spanking Maria real hard and pinching her vagina. Nobody else would hit her. As for the bite mark on Maria, Lucino explained that 2 weeks before Maria's death, while Lucino was combing her hair, Lucia grew frustrated with her kids jumping around. Although Maria had done nothing wrong, Lucia placed her mouth over Maria's back and bit her. During the interrogation, Lucino denied ever punching Maria, causing the scratches on Maria's face, hitting Maria on the head, or killing Maria, but also told investigators, "I am responsible for it." Following the interrogation, Lucino made a phone call, and police officers who had been present with Lucino during the phone call testified that Lucino had told her sister, "Don't blame Robert. This was me. I did it, so don't blame Robert." The state of Texas charged Lucino with capital murder. In the trial, Lucino's sister took stand in the trial and testified about the phone call. She denied that Lucino said, "This was said to me. I did it," Lucino's sister said, and they only discussing spanking, and Lucino said, "I would spank the kids." Lucino's sister also denied Lucino spanked Maria. In the sister's account, never disciplined her children. The jury also heard testimony concerning Maria's injuries. The forensic pathologist who performed Maria's autopsy testified that the injuries were not a result of a fall, that this child had been beaten, this child had been battered. In the pathologist's expert opinion, Maria died from blunt force trauma to the head. This is 115 pages long. I'm not going to read 115 pages of it. Just wanted to give you guys an idea of what happened to this baby. And you have people that are trying to get her freed. I can't wrap my mind around it. I really can't. Like, I don't understand it. At one point, she had even tried to blame this on one of the other kids. Sick. People are sick. The world we live in. I had this all set up, guys, and it crashed on me. That's why we're on Firefox, is because the other browser decided not to work for me there. Okay, this is talking about the execution, I think. This chick had some really good points. Jackie Flores, she has a really big channel. She's got some really good stuff in there. Yeah, since we were talking about the supporters, we'll go ahead and look at a video of the supporters that'll play for us. It's so frustrating how one channel has different information and websites. This is Good Morning America.
Okay, this is a freezer, not a time capsule. Sometimes the house.
The ads. Despise the ads. See what this will let me. Drop a comment. Ooh, me. Because I didn't think to put it on the live. course it starts. Here we go.
Growing calls for clemency for a Texas woman set to be executed for killing her young daughter.
I'm sorry that I wasn't there to protect her. And I failed her.
More than 100,000 people have now signed a petition claiming 53-year-old Melissa Lucio is innocent, and her alleged confession to police after 5 hours of questioning was not valid. Among those on Lucio's side, reality star and current law student Texas Kardashian.
When I had the opportunity to help someone,
I'm sorry
and
that I wasn't there to protect her.
I started to dig deeper and saw that our system just had so many flaws.
Kardashian has helped other death row inmates, including Alice Johnson, whose lifetime sentence for a drug offense was commuted by former President Trump. Kardashian now hoping her celebrity will help Lucio, posting, "So heartbreaking to read this letter from Melissa Lucio's children, begging for the state not to kill their mother. There are so many unresolved questions surrounding this case and the evidence that was used to convict her." Lucio was convicted of killing her 2-year-old daughter, Mariah Alvarez, back in 2007. She claims Mariah accidentally fell down the stairs. Authorities say it was child abuse, saying the ER doctor called it the worst case of abuse they'd seen in 30 years. But a recent documentary on Hulu raised awareness of the case. And soon, support for Lucio began to grow, with a bipartisan group of dozens of Texas lawmakers now questioning whether the trial was fair and whether Lucio's defense was adequate.
Cases like this where you have a child death, experts that come in and do research and analysis. Her attorneys decided to go to trial without allowing those experts to complete their work.
Lucio is the first Latina sent to death row in Texas. The parole board plans to vote on her clemency petition 2 days before her execution, which is April 27th. Mona, Andrew.
More to come. All right, Andrea, thank you.
Your home for adventure. Your home for romance. Your home for big savings.
Hey, Mom, have you seen my... Ew.
Go away. That's nice. Somebody did something nice like that. There are good people out there. This was it, I think.
Welcome back to the news at 6. Family members of Melissa Lucio, a woman on death row, went to the Capitol today to try to get the attention of lawmakers.
They say they want her execution, scheduled for April, to stop, and they'll do whatever it takes. The KV defenders are taking a closer look at that case. Here's investigative reporter Thumpy Barna.
Family members of Melissa Melissa Lucio know that the next 2 months are crucial. Melissa Lucio could be executed in April for killing her 2-year-old daughter, Mariah Alvarez, in Harlingen in 2007.
We're torn apart. My mom has no life in her no more. For the past 15 years, she's grieved for her daughter.
Melissa's son, John Vincent Lucio, isn't giving up. He puts flyers on people's cars, hoping they sign a petition to free his mother.
I know she's innocent because my mother has never ever been an abusive woman.
John says his sister's death was an accident.
She had an accident. She did fall down. If you look at the documentary, you can see the stairs that she fell on.
And some people agreed with that.
That in 2019, she basically won her appeal. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the most conservative court in the country, reversed her conviction unanimously on the fact that, she did not have a fair trial.
But then the state appealed the appeal, keeping Melissa behind bars. Now her family is asking a bigger question.
Who's going to execute them for murdering my sister?
For KVUE News, I'm Tanvi Verma.
Qué buena casa de Verbo. Vamos.
This is Melissa Lucino, a mother of 14, is facing death by lethal injection unless new evidence casts doubt on the murder conviction of the death of her 2-year-old daughter who fell down the stairs in 2007. This is the first I've heard of any video footage. Fuma Oscar asked the boy, "Did you see your sister fall down the stairs, or did someone tell you she fell?" He responds with, "No, I saw her fall." And this is Brownsville, Texas. And you would think with her being the first Hispanic woman to be on death row, this would be all over YouTube, but instead people are too busy starting drama and fighting with each other to talk about cases that are not getting the footage that they should. Doxy there. That's a slide. This is on February 17, 2007 in Harlingen, Texas. EMT found a victim that is not breathing and with no vital signs while EMT personnel attempted To care for the child, they cut off the victim's shirt and found purple and green bruises on her entire torso, head, face, right shoulder. The subject was arrested and transported to Cameron County Jail. Wow, whatever that is, that's really annoying. It says the evidence presented in this case shows that about 7 p.m. on Saturday, February 17th, 2007, the paramedics were dispatched to an apartment where the appellant lived, the 9 of her children, and an adult male named Robert Alvarez, who was the father of 7 of these children and whom the appellant referred to as himself as her husband. One of the paramedics, Nestor, testified that when the paramedics entered the apartment, they found Maria unattended, lying on her back in the middle of the floor, not breathing, with no pulse. Nestor observed that the appellant's distant and not overly distressed behavior was so far out of the ordinary that he put it back into the report. Nestor also testified that he noted the fact of the appellant was not she was even within arm's reach of the child, much less even to gasp or hold her, trying to do anything with them. The appellant told the police and paramedics the scene that Maria had fell down some stairs. The condition of Maria's body indicated that she had been severely bruised and that there were bruises in various stages of healing covering her body were bite marks, one on her arms and back, and her arms had been broken probably about 2 to 7 weeks before her death, and she was missing portions of her hair which had been pulled out by the roots. The emergency room physician Vargas testified that it was the absolute worst case of child abuse that he had seen in over 30 years of his practice. Vargas also testified in the emergency room the visual manual inspection of Maria indicated no apparent signs of a head injury. The chief forensic pathological Cameron and Hidalgo counties of Farley, who conducted Maria's autopsy on Monday, February 19, 2007, testified that Maria's cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. So we keep seeing blunt force trauma to the head. So that's pretty confirmed. Farley testified the injuries would not have been caused by falling down some stairs, that this was the most severe case of child abuse she had ever seen. Damage to the brain. Question the state: if the child suffers a type of brain injury that you have identified in this exhibit, would the child be able to sit up, eat Cocoa Crisp, and do things out of that nature? No, usually this kind of hemorrhage, the child would have some kind of immediate sign. Most of the time they are very tired. They may seize, get very tense, and then relax, and very tense and then relax. People realize what it is, but sometimes parents realize it is a seizure, and they will say that they're seizing, yet they have never had a seizure before. Because she had been repeatedly and systematically tortured and brutalized for 2 years over the course of approximately 2 months. This woman who repeatedly bit her defenseless child for no reason and pinched her vagina just because the appellant hit 2-year-old Maria as she were a punching bag when she got mad. Wow. Defense attorneys tried to blame her past. They said that Lucino was physically and sexually abused as a child. Lucino presented 14 issues on appeal, arguing the evidence trial was insufficient to support the jury's verdict. Lucino had committed the murder and that the evidence was insufficient to support the jury's findings of future danger to society. Support the jury's verdict. Oh, okay, I see what they're saying. Finding that the future danger to society questioned by CPS and trying to permanently revoke Lucino's parental rights at the same arranged parental visits with her children, including weekly visits with her newborn twins. pregnant during the incident in the first trial with twins, has 13 children. First female to be on death row in Cameron County, dropped out of high school in the 11th grade. The trial she was prosecuted and then took to decide whether or not Melissa was guilty. And then those are some clickable links. Aid not found. That kind of sucks. And I guess this is just like a forum.
I'll be back. Sean needs me to run down to his work real quick. He found a gaming headset in a tree or some shit.
Okay, I need a coffee.
I'll grab you.
Thank you. Oh man, sometimes when you get in these little rabbit holes or like a Reddit rabbit hole, you can find some links that'll work. This is a direct appeal. And this is from It's really frustrating that Firefox doesn't have where to read it to y'all. I gotta have some hope to that.
Okay, this is a freezer, not a time capsule. Okay, snacks and popcorn are going to be expensive. This can be a lot for you.
Bathroom.
That our system just had so many.
This morning, growing calls for clemency for a Texas woman set to be executed for killing her young daughter.
I'm sorry that I wasn't there to protect her. And I failed her.
More than 100,000 people have now signed a petition claiming 53-year-old.
We already heard what shit to say. So I've got this to work. I'm gonna grab all this.
The state of Texas. On direct appeal. Cause number 07CR885B in the 138th Judicial District Court. Cameron County. Hervey, J. delivered the opinion of the court in which Myers, Johnson, Kiesler, Cochran, and Alcala, J.J., joined. Keller, P.J., joined except for points 4 and 11, in which she concurs. Keller, P.J., filed a concurring opinion. Cochran, J., filed a concurring opinion in which Johnson, J., joined. Price and Womack, J.J., concurred. OPINION. Appellant was charged with capital murder for the death of her 2-year-old daughter, Mariah. A jury convicted appellant of this offense, and the trial court sentenced appellant to death pursuant to the jury's answers to the special issues at the punishment phase. Appellant raises 14 points of error on direct appeal. Finding no reversible error, we overrule these points of error and affirm the trial court's judgment. The evidence presented in this case shows that, at about 7 p.m. on Saturday, February 17, 2007, paramedics were dispatched to an apartment where appellant lived with 9 of her children and an adult male named Robert Alvarez, who was the father of at least 7 of these children and whom appellant referred to as her husband. One of the paramedics, Nestor, testified that, when the paramedics entered the apartment, they found Mariah unattended and lying on her back in the middle of the floor, not breathing and with no pulse. Nestor observed that appellant's distant and not overly distressed behavior was so far out of the ordinary that he put it into the report. Nestor also testified that he noted the fact that appellant she wasn't even within arm's reach of the child, much less trying to gasp sick, hold her, or trying to do anything to hold them sick. Appellant told police and paramedics at the scene that Mariah had fallen down some stairs. Mariah was transported to a hospital emergency room where she was pronounced dead. The condition of Mariah's body indicated that she had been severely abused. There were bruises in various stages of healing covering her body. There were bite marks on her back, too. One of her arms had been broken probably about 2 to 7 weeks before her death, and she was missing portions of her hair where it had been pulled out by the roots. The emergency room physician, Vargas, testified that this was the absolute worst case of child abuse that he had seen in his 30 years of practice. Vargas also testified that his emergency room visual and manual inspection of Mariah indicated no apparent signs of a head injury. The chief forensic pathologist for Cameron and Hidalgo counties, Farley, who conducted Mariah's autopsy on Monday, February 19, 2007, testified that Mariah's cause of death was blunt force head trauma, which would have occurred within 24 hours prior to her death, and it would have been immediately apparent that Mariah was in distress and in need of medical attention. Farley testified that Mariah suffered multiple contusions to her head area and that blunt force head trauma basically means beat about the head with something, an object, a hand, a fist, or slammed. Farley testified that these injuries would not have been caused by falling down some stairs and that this was the most severe case of child abuse she had ever seen. On the night of February 17, 2007, several investigators questioned appellant for about 5 hours, beginning at about 10 p.m. This interview was videotaped and was admitted into evidence in 3 separate DVDs, State's Exhibits 3, 4, and 5. Appellant initially told the police that Mariah had fallen down some stairs on Thursday night, February 15, 2007. For about 3 hours, appellant denied any knowledge of how Mariah became so badly bruised and suggested that her older children could have been responsible. Texas Ranger Escalon began to question appellant about 2.5 hours into the interrogation. Escalon testified at trial that, while he observed other investigators questioning her, he could tell from appellant's demeanor that she was beat and that she was hiding the truth. Q state, "Now, officer, as you went in, you waited for a pause before you went in and you introduced yourself?" A. Escalon, "Yes, sir. I did." Q. Can you describe to the jury how you go about doing that? A. Well, my initial observation, that's when the investigation starts, is when I walked into the room and I see the investigators interviewing the suspect. I'm just observing right now, trying to soak it all in, and see what we have, and try to get a better idea about this lady. And I observe her, how she's answering these questions, her demeanor, how she's standing. All of that is telling me it's like a picture, almost I am observing everything, and that is already feeding me, that's already telling me what I'm dealing with. Okay. And then I see the investigators and I'm just making note, I am sick making note, you know. Okay. This is what I have. Q. What type of demeanor would you describe her having? A. When I walked in, she was not making eye contact with the investigator. She had her head down. So right there and then, I knew she did something. And she was ashamed of what she did, and she had a hard time admitting to officers what had occurred. That's what crossed my mind. And I knew she was beat. I knew when I say she was beat, she was giving up. She wants to tell because she's giving that slouched appearance, you know. I did it. I've given up. I need to interview her, visit with her a little more. That's what I sensed. And I get that because of my experience in law enforcement, and my experience in interviewing people. Every time it's pretty much similar, in demeanor, in people, and that's what I have experienced. Q. Have you had other types of experiences in your experience as a trooper and investigator in interviewing people? A. That's one of the most common clues you would call that you see somebody with their head down, and like their shoulders are slouched forward, and they won't look at you. They're hiding the truth. 3. Escalon testified that appellant began to open up with him after about 20 minutes of questioning. Appellant's recorded statement reflects that she told Escalon that she, and only she, had been spanking or hitting Mariah since sometime in December 2006. Appellant stated that Alvarez never hit or spanked Mariah and that Alvarez was unaware of most of the bruises on Mariah's body. Appellant also stated that none of the other children beat Mariah and that no one except appellant beat Mariah. Appellant also stated that Mariah had been in her care for at least the previous 3 days. The jury also saw appellant on the videotape demonstrate with a doll how she abused and spanked Mariah. Appellant also stated that she would hit Mariah when appellant got mad. Appellant also described how she pinched Mariah's vagina and how she would sometimes grab and squeeze Mariah's arm. Appellant described how she bit Mariah twice on the back at different times about 2 weeks before Mariah's death. Appellant said that on one occasion she bit Mariah on the back for no reason while she was combing Mariah's hair. Appellant said, "I just did it." Appellant also stated that she would spank Mariah several times day after day. Appellant stated that Mariah was sick on the day that she died, but that she was afraid to take Mariah to the doctor because of all the bruises on her. Appellant also stated that Mariah would not eat and that her breathing was heavy. Appellant said that Mariah slept all day on February 17, 2007, and that she would lock her teeth together when Appellant would try to feed her. This was consistent with blunt force head trauma symptoms that Farley described. Q state, if the child suffers the type of brain injury that you've identified on this exhibit, would this child be able to sit up, eat Cocoa Crisps, and things of that nature? A no. Usually with this kind of hemorrhage, the child has some type of immediate sign. Most of the time, they say they're very tired. They may seize and get very tense, and then relax, and get very tense, and then relax. People may not realize what it is, but sometimes parents will realize that that's a seizure, and they'll say, they're seizing. Yet, they've never had a seizure before. The other thing they will tend to do is, the pressure increases because the brain will start to swell. They might start to vomit. And so if an ER doctor sees them, they may think they have a gastrointestinal virus, or something. But they're vomiting because of the pressure in the head. So seizing lethargy being very tired. Coma is very consistent. Abnormal respirations, they breathing a little funny. They take a big breath, and then they sit. And then it might go up. And then 10 seconds later, maybe another breath. So the breathing starts to also be affected as the brain starts to swell. Q like on this type of injury, how far back would those symptoms had sick been known to somebody that is?
Wow, so that was some pretty interesting information we were able to pull up there. I'm gonna go ahead and run this video. It says it's got the taped interrogation fragments of the interview, and I'll include this creator's post. Sorry, my old man's just waking up, kind of freaking out. So there we go. That should work better.
You know something is wrong.
No, sir, I don't.
You know something is wrong.
No, sir, I don't.
If I bring you all those pictures, if I beat you half to death, like that little child was beat, I bet you'd die too.
Sir, I did not beat my daughter, sir.
No?
I'm not that cruel to my children.
What are those bruises on your little child?
Thing is that I got a mom. I can clearly see here. Doesn't know who did that. Yeah, it wasn't me. I didn't cause her death.
Melissa, my name's Victor Escalon.
Basically, what they were doing is they were trying to make me admit that I was the one responsible for her fall. And I kept telling them that I hadn't hurt my daughter, and they were very vulgar, very, very rough, very persistent. They wanted me to admit to something that I was not capable of doing to my child. And the interrogation continued for maybe 7 hours until 3 o'clock in the morning.
This is your chance to set it straight. Right now, it looks like a capital murder. Right now, it looks like you're a cold-blooded killer. Now, are you a cold-blooded killer, or were you a frustrated mother who just took it out on her?
We knew somebody did it. We're trying to find out who did it. If it wasn't you, I don't think somebody crept in there at the middle of the night and went up to your child and specifically singled her out so he could bite her on the back.
Listen, it happens. Okay? We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We all get upset. We already know what happened. We already know what happened.
They just kept pointing fingers at me and threatening me and telling me that I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison and that I wasn't going to be able to see the rest of my children grow up and get married. And, they just kept throwing so many words at me. And I just told them I'm responsible for Mariah's bruises. They wanted to hear something. I mean, I was not going to admit to causing her death because I wasn't responsible. In the end, they left the room, the detectives. There was 3 detectives and the ranger. They left the room and they left me in the interrogation room by myself. And I could hear them out in the hallway deciding what to charge me with. If they should charge me with injury to a child or capital murder, or they couldn't decide.
You gonna hold it like that?
Yeah, I can hold it like this.
It's better that way.
Yeah, because I guess we're going to be moving around, so.
Okay, you ready? Say what? Listen. Okay. Today's date is 2/18/2007. It is 3 a.m. We are here at the Harlingen Police Department. I am here with Melissa Lucio. My name is Victor Escalon with the Texas Rangers. I am also in this room is Officer Harlingen Police Detective Javier Villarreal. Lay her down and show me how you would spank her. But was it one time or several times?
Several times.
Show me how. But show me the same force you would use. Was your right or left hand?
Right hand.
Would you be standing up or sitting down?
Both.
How would you do it when you're sitting down? Show me how you would do it. I mean, the way you actually did it. Just get it rolling.
Or just make her real hard on her back.
Or do it real hard like you definitely would do it. Like the way you would do it.
That's the way we do it. I mean, I wouldn't pound on her.
But wouldn't do it.
You got it.
Was it harder?
No.
Because I don't do it hard.
Well, you're doing it on yourself. I mean, I wasn't pounding on her or anything.
Show me exactly how you would do it like that.
Yes.
And this is just what? Spanking? Did you hit it with a stick? Did you use anything? How do you feel when you see these pictures? What's going through your head?
It was me that got hurt.
Is there anything else you want to add? Listen, it's 3:15 a.m. and that will end the interview.
Solo unas semanas de la ejecución de Melissa Lucio en Texas.
Everybody's so concerned with getting this lady out of prison. What happened to the concern for this baby? That blows my mind, guys. What happened to the quality of her life? This is crazy. why these people would try to save her. I just don't understand it. Let's see what's going on the YouTube streets. Alright guys, well it looks like Miss Daisy's live, so I'm going to go ahead and end my live and go over and mod for her. You guys, if anybody ends up watching or want to come over at Crime Critters and Crazies, come hang out with Miss Daisy and the mods and chat on the farm. As always guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, and share. And make sure if you see something, you say something.